No, I mean, I would hope for that. Would be like the best scenario in a gig. Like, I think there were some magical moments. I don't know. I felt it with the crowd too. Like some really great moments. Is like one of my top. It might be our top concert ever. Like, definitely in the top 3. Like, just in like the whole feeling of it and the whole. I mean, just even how beautiful the venue was. Looking at the people with like the arches.
When we first saw the crowd react positively, we're like, oh, thank God. We're not getting moved, all right.
One of my favorite artists, I think maybe my all-time favorite artist, is Bruce Springsteen. I love like that. That's like I think the ultimate goal is to like be able to play a 4-hour show like him. I do like there's something in the artist like artists that it's like almost like Janis Joplin. Like I want to be able to bleed like give him like I don't know. Is it how do you explain it?
That's exactly what it is. Yeah.
It's like
I understand exactly. That's Because I don't know, like the newer rock bands, I don't know if they want to do what Bruce Springsteen was trying to do on that level. I think because Bruce Springsteen was influenced by the same people that we were influenced by. So it's like, I don't know. It's kind of it's almost like trying to take the crowd to church. Let's sing it together. Let's do this together. Tell me your pains, and I'll tell you ours. And it's a different. I don't know. It's just a different way of performing, as opposed to like, hey, you paid to see the show. Watch us play.
Look at me the whole time. Oh yeah, definitely. We just did a club tour. We were headlining a club tour around Europe for our new album, Running for a Dream. The Running for a Dream tour. But the interaction, every show, like we would have people on stage, or I'd be out in the. I almost felt like there shouldn't be a stage. Like we should design the gig, maybe not even in a club. Like we were talking about that on tour. Like why are we playing in a club? Like maybe we should do our shows on a lawn, or I don't know. Like make. But anyway, we did it in a regular club. But we wanted the feeling of like you're not in a club. You can be anywhere. We could make it what we wanted.
You can imagine how much of a nightmare our sound checks are. When Delilah's like, maybe we shouldn't play on the stage, just do something else. I'm like, what? Sometimes the show, like with an acoustic guitar, we didn't plan it. She'll just grab the acoustic. I want to start with this. Sound guy has a freaking heart attack, has a meltdown. He doesn't know how to mic her up. She's like, I don't need to be mic'd up. I'll just go into the crowd with the guitar. It's fine. Don't worry about it. And she doesn't even know if it's going to work out. But she does it. It's that element of uncertainty, I think. I know it excites you.
Yeah.
Excites me to a certain extent. It's also a little scary, which is part of the excitement.
Well, you know, we take inspiration from a lot of things, but Muhammad Ali is one of them. He was like the people's champ, they call him. So he would stay and like sign autographs. He would never say no to like someone who wanted, because you never know like what you mean to them, or like how you're gonna make their day better.
We were doing festival to festival, kids show to kids show last summer. But it was all fly dates. So it was like taxis, trains, fly, barely little sleep. At that time, she didn't sleep maybe 1 hour in the past 2 days or whatever. Barely any sleep. So our flight kept getting delayed. We're at Milan Airport. It's 4 a.m. The flight was supposed to be the day before, like 8 p.m. 4 a.m. canceled. We rushed to get on another flight, and there's only one seat left for her. She takes it.
Yeah.
We're waving at her. Bye. Go do the show yourself. And we don't know if they're going to allow her to do the show herself. She's going to go there and say, hey, my band couldn't make it.
And this is opening up for Kiss.
Yeah.
We're supposed to be a band, not like an acoustic. So anyway, I'm running to the flight because I'm going to miss it. I'm like, if I don't get in this, it's like 8 a.m. where the flight was like at 8. I'm running to the gate. I feel like I'm in a dream because I didn't sleep. And then a girl comes up to me like, "Oh my God, are you Delilah from the Last International?" And like that doesn't really happen often at all. But that summer it was happening a lot.
It was happening a lot at the
Yeah,
airports, yeah.
at the airports. So this girl from Italy, she saw us in Italy, Milan. I think. She's like, "Can you take a picture with me?" I'm like, "I don't know. I'm gonna miss my flight," but I didn't want to say no, so I did it. And then we took a picture, and she ended up posting it, which was cool. Like, oh, she was gonna miss her flight, but she did take a picture.
And then she texted me from the plane. I made it on the plane, and I think I just hallucinated a person that asked for my picture. Can
Yeah, I
you
didn't know if
check
it was real or
Instagram to
not.
see if it's real? Because I might be losing my mind. So,
I really thought, I was
So-
like, did I hallucinate that? Because it's like a weird. I felt like there was no one else in the airport but her, but it was cool.
but then a few hours later, she posted a picture, and she had proof. Like, okay, I didn't hallucinate.
So anyway, we will like always stop for if anyone wants to. There's like a lot of legends, and but we are grateful for like every show, even club shows, small shows, but opening up for like major bands is, I mean, it teaches you a lot too. Just seeing like how the crew works and how they like perform, so
Yeah.
you learn a lot.
Will we ever headline an arena in our lives? You know what I'm saying? Like, we're dreaming. We're like, how can we do that? Like, you know, like, so opening up for all these bands, it's like, it's super exciting, but at the same time, it's like, shit, would that ever be us? Ever? Like, what do we gotta do? Let's do it. It's like, but we started with folk music. It wasn't like the band. We called it the Last National, but it was two folkies with acoustic guitars going to protest, like Pete Seeger.
Yeah, we did like rooms, like we did a lot of events like campaign to end the death penalty, and, like things like that.
Book fairs and
Yeah.
nerdy things too. Anarchist, like the anarchist kind of like collectives or the anarchist parties, whatever you call it. That's the only place where our stuff was stolen from.
Long after that,
Yeah.
I mean,
They were overlapping.
yeah, like he was playing electric blues on electric, yeah, and like, and then it kind of like, it was organic because yeah, we just wanted to play. I don't know, because I think because we just had the acoustics, and then we
Yeah.
started playing electric.
Because we love the blues and folk, so
Yeah, they kind of
yeah.
intertwine.
Like I think we saw the documentary Dylan when he went electric, but the blues band with Mike Bloomfield and all that, and Electric Flag, those guys, and hearing Mike Bloomfield play with Dylan, I was like, what the fuck? I was like, it's kind of cool, and it was also out of necessity because back then, especially like bars didn't want to book two folkies singing fucking "We Shall Overcome" or something. They wanted like "Smoke on the Water" or whatever. So we had to learn all these cover songs and whatever, just so we could make like $300 at the end of the night, so we could put gas in the tank and.
Yeah,
Or-
we would play
yeah.
like, we would play 4 hours actually.
Yeah, we played 4 hours.
I remember the day I did music therapy, so I always wanted to do like healing with like music. I was working at a nursing home, and I remember the day when Edgy booked the first tour. Oh no, the first show was we were in New York, and the first show.
Park. It was in for the bikers.
Oh no, I'm talking
That was
about
the
Washington.
Oh yeah, the first touring show.
Tour,
Yeah.
But the first show was across the whole country.
Yeah.
We didn't have any shows in between.
No.
We booked it in Washington State, which is
And
like
we called
3 days
random
drive.
bars up. Like, hey, you need a band tonight? You need a band tonight? And someone said yes. And, I covered the phone like, They said yes. I'm like, no way, I'm like, yeah. I'm like, is it, how much? And, you know, the guy said 300. For us, $300, like $3 million to us. So we're like, I think we can make that work, whatever. We'll be there in 20 minutes. I'm like, dude, we got a gig? We got a fucking gig. How much? $300. No way, we're rich. It's like,
But I quit my job then when we
Yeah.
went on that first tour, and I was like, I'm not going back. And then I remember saying bye to all my patients,
yeah.
the old ladies that were so cute. They're like, go follow your dream. So I'm still doing that.
Little did you know what you got yourself into, though.
Not really. I know I missed, because I formed like a nice relationship with all the people at the nursing home. It was kind of like that, like, oh, I feel bad leaving you. But no, we were excited and still the same. We still have that feeling. So it feels new every time we play the stage.
It was the most insane tour for us. Even everything happened on that tour. Like the band broke up on that tour. Like the drummer and bassist, the bassist was left in Texas or something. I think he's still there. It was just a disaster in ways, but also very thrilling and like fulfilling. Like we the gigs wouldn't make enough money for the road, so we'd have to like pick receipts from the garbage and call like fast food places, say they messed up our orders, like, you know, like McDonald's or whatever. So we eat like shit, and we're very health conscious people. We very healthy, like, but we eat like total shit on the road. Like what was the pizzeria we went to all the time? The $5 pizzas. We eating $5 pizzas for free because we said they fucked up our order, eating burgers. It was disgusting. It was nasty. Delilah, before this interview, she was like, what if I tell them what happened to you on that tour? I'm like, I don't give a fuck what you say. And she was like, I'll never say that in public. You know, I'll tell you right now, a 70-something-year-old man tried to molest me when we were couch surfing on that tour. Whatever, it fucking happened, dude. Like, what do you want me to say? But I'd never say that in public. She dared me. She was like, you'll never say it. I'm like, I'll say it right now. There you go.
Well,
Could be.
I could see that. It's hard when you're in it to see what you are, or, you know, like what genre.
Yeah.
Because we're not thinking about it. So, but I think I feel influence, like, I mean, the early blues, and it's probably the same influence as them, and we always geared towards like the warmer sounds, and like
Yeah.
I love Fleetwood Mac, like everyone you said.
Yeah.
But the past two albums we produced it ourselves.
Mhm. But it's weird because this last album, she was listening to a lot of, I guess,
Like-
pop music because
Yeah, like Michael Jackson.
Michael Jackson, Aretha Franklin. I mean, these are pop artists at the time. So
Yeah.
Whitney Houston a lot. So she started writing. It influenced the melody of the new record. And there's one song, maybe two, one song in particular called "Getaway Driver," that for some reason we couldn't make it. Like, we didn't want it to sound old. We didn't want it to be like the rest of the record. We wanted a song that just sticks out like a sore thumb. And that was the perfect song because the vocal melody is so pop-ish, but modern. It was accidental that it sounds like a modern pop song. But what we did was, we wanted the record to have influences of, like, I guess the 70s, because we love that old style, warm sound music. But sonically, we wanted that modern kick and snare. We wanted to explode and be huge. And so that song "Getaway Driver," if you hear the production, it kind of sounds close to who's that artist that's huge? The terrible modern artist, like the Weeknd, that guy.
Oh, okay.
Kind of sounds like The Weeknd because the drums are so huge. You know what I'm saying? I love huge drums. I grew up with hip hop. I think rock should borrow from hip hop more, make huge sounding drums.
Oh, well, right now we're not distributed. We don't have a distributor.
Yeah.
We released it just independently on our, like, we mail it out ourselves.
You sign it.
Right now, it is.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll get distribution soon.
We signed a distribution deal for Soul on Fire, but it was with Sony, so it was a night.
Yeah, we did it for the last record. So
We haven't been paid in over 2 years. Yeah, our merch, we haven't run all the emails about payment, so I don't know how much they owe us, but it's a lot of money because we paid ourselves for the vinyl, we manufacture it, we send it to Sony. Sony distributes it was a distribution deal in France, so it's in all the record shops in France. They collect the money, we haven't been paid in 2 years. Again, it's like anytime to sign a distribution deal to get the records in Greece, we'd have to do a similar deal, pay up front the money for the records, and then get ripped off and not get paid back. It's not a good business strategy unless it's a good company that will distribute the record.
Well, I think vocally, like my favorite tones of voice is like, first of all, I'm still obsessed with voices and like singing. I'm always like singing and trying to like improve my singing and like, even ever since I was little, I started like singing Mariah Carey when I was like growing up. And like even Aretha Franklin, what's his name? Oh man. Sam Cooke.
Oh,
I love Sam Cooke.
For guitar, there's a lot, but there's a heavy influence on blues music. I first got introduced to all this stuff with my first guitar teacher, mentor, Cloud William. He's a blues musician in New York. So he got me really, really into guitar players like Freddie King, Albert King. I love Hubert Sumlin. I think he's a very underrated guitar player. He played with Howlin' Wolf. It's very simple sounding, but also very difficult to play as far as the emotion and the feeling is behind it. Like songs like Smokestack Lightning, the repetition of the riff, you know what I'm saying? Which is what I guess blues is based on. It's the opposite of jazz, where it's like blues music is based on the repetition of the riff for a song, and then you depart from it, and then you come right back. My biggest influence would have to be, of course, Clapton. Every guitar, if they say they're not influenced by Clapton, they're lying. Clapton is a huge influence. But for me, it's probably more so Jeff Beck. I loved his work in the Yardbirds and some of his solo stuff too. Saw him live three times rather, and it's mind-blowing, you know, what he does with the guitar. And last but certainly, I could go on forever listing influences, but certainly not least, I would say if I had to choose one of all of these people, it would have to be Tom Morello, who's now a personal friend. He's a mentor. He's one of the reasons why we're still making music. Tom Morello, for me, is because it's a departure from the blues. You know, it's not so much blues. I already have that. Every day I play blues. It's what's my biggest influence. But my favorite band growing up was Rage Against the Machine, and my favorite guitar player growing up was also Tom Morello. And what he did to reinvent the guitar is just super innovative. I never gravitated towards the fusion players, the fusion bands, the fancy stuff, the Dream Theater stuff. It is what it is. I'm not saying it's great for what it is, but just me personally, I just never played. I never put it in my system. I never tried to play it. I'm sure I can't play it. You know what I'm saying? It's just not something that touches my soul. You know what I mean? The influences that I told you about, those are the ones that move me to the core. It's not about how fast you can play. It's about the emotion you put into the music, and that's what I always. Not that I also don't play fast, as you've seen at the show. I do fast riffs. I try, and I do a lot of techniques and a lot of things to speed up my playing, see how fast I can play on certain songs. But
let me just add, because I know Edge is long, but I wanted to add one. I don't know if your viewers know this artist, but I actually discovered her when I was in Athens last time. We were walking and I got her vinyl. I'm like, who is this?
Mm-hmm.
Mahalia Jackson. And she's an American gospel singer. I got that vinyl in Athens. We were walking to the Acropolis. Yeah.
We
I'm so
played I'm Gonna Live the Life I Sing About, my song, on repeat over and over and over and over again, like all week.
And her voice is just, I don't think there's any other bigger singer. Like, it sounds like she's gonna eat up the entire earth when she sings. Or the entire earth's gonna come out of her mouth. I don't know. It's like this crazy, grand voice. So Mahalia Jackson.